All right, everyone, we start off today with Joemanchin. He's going back to New Hampshire with a group of people who seem to be awfully interested in the possibility of him running for the election. And I've analyzed this before, but I figured I would reanalyze this because, he is making more overtures. There's no reason for a West Virginian senator to be palling around in New Hampshire necessarily. Unless he either has ambition to run or he's doing it on behalf of another candidate. Like as part of fundraising or something, Manchin shows up and it's for, Biden 24 or, Marianne Williamson 24. Here's what I think happens, assuming that he gets in. And keep in mind, he might run as a Democrat or because his political career right now is defunct. He is going to get kicked out of the Senate. There's no possibility of him winning. He's about 50 points behind in the polling there. He's the incumbent and was reasonably popular, and we can also explain the reason why he fell from grace in such a catastrophic manner. And he shouldn't have done it. Since he is not going to be reelected to the Senate, certainly he wants to continue a political career. Now, he's no spring chicken, but he's not exactly Biden age, so he can fit in there. Let's say he runs as a Democrat. So he announces that he's decided to run. He's going to get hit at first Biden will hit him by saying, well, he's 50 points down in his own home state. It would be difficult for Biden to make that particular attack line work, though. And here's really Manchin's strength. The reason why he dropped off a cliff politically was because he went behind the backs of his own voters, negotiating directly with Joe Biden with regards to his hefty spending bills, with the infrastructure bill, etc., and he got it parsed down slightly. It was still a massive expenditure. It's still shovel-ready 2.0, but he went behind people's backs. In public, he said, I'm not talking with him at all. I don't like this. I can't vote for this bill. It's too much money. It's going to inflate the currency. I don't think it'll be effective enough. Elements of it are far left nonsense, so I'm not voting for it. But for months behind closed doors in private, he was talking directly to Joe. He got a few trinkets thrown in for him and West Virginia. He got a few of the worst items removed. And that's basically it. And of course, the rest is history. It did pass, unfortunately, thus unleashing hundreds of billions of dollars in additional funny money spending at a time when, at that moment, inflation was skyrocketing. It is worse than it is now. Now it's finally leveled off, more or less. It's still a problem, but it's not 9% anymore. So we'll give credit where credit's due. Yay, Bidenomics is really working. It has nothing to do with Bidenomics, but he's taking credit for it anyway. Manchin, therefore, could be a big problem for Joe Biden. I think at the end of the day, he robs some voters from Biden and some from RFK Jr. He probably slides into a fairly comfortable second place showing. It would take a lot of work for him to knock Biden off his pedestal in the actual primaries. It would be legendary if he was capable of doing so. I think his message would be palatable to some independent voters and certainly to the Union Dems. That's a good core fan base to have, by the way, within the Democratic Party. Is it enough to override the massive wall of unipartyism that circles around Biden? He's got the media, literally working in part for his administration. It's been bragged about by CNN openly that they take economic news marching orders directly from Joe and his staff. So he's got the uniparty, he's got the legacy media, he's got his federal agencies breathing down big tech's neck all the time. That means that even if you don't have as many organic core fans, you do have the apparatus, and certainly Biden has the fundraising. Manchin, I think, might struggle in that department. He would eclipse RFK Jr. or Marianne Williamson, but it would become a problem for Biden, mainly because Biden would find it difficult, I think, to attack him. How are you going to attack him? That becomes the problem. Certainly not on coherence. Of course, Joe Manchin can still string a sentence together. He's reasonably well-spoken. You can't attack him on age because he's almost a decade younger than your guy is. You can't really attack him on guns. I know that's a side issue, red meat for some Democrats. Manchin has waffled on that issue, though, and he's straddling the line that actually is like the best fit for the public will. I don't support it, but I'm pragmatic enough to acknowledge that most citizens don't want to get rid of the NFA. It's unconstitutional. They should want to get rid of it. It's for everyone's best interest in the end, but I realize that my views on guns are not shared by the majority of the population. Manchin fits in there. Also, when you have hippie grandma, former heroin addict RFK Jr., and Crazy Joe as your opponents, and you're the one that repeatedly has praised Christian morality, a minority of Democrats might find that amenable. Hispanic Democrats might actually find that they like Joe Manchin better. That would be a headache for Biden, especially when Biden ends up probably nominated anyway, but his coalition has been weakened. Now, let's say Manchin does not win in the primary, or he decides to form a third-party run. What happens then? Manchin's unique political ideological leanings mean that he would grab some Republican voters as well if he mounted an independent run, but he would take more from the Democrats. And with Cornel West already in there, the only Green Party candidate in 30 years that actually has a pulse politically, Biden would end up losing badly. Because if he loses 3 or 4 points in the general to a couple of independent runs, he can't win. Based on the polling metrics that I see now, it'll be Biden v. Trump in the general. It's what I expect. Of course, Trump is himself 32 points ahead or something in a packed field, with his opponents largely at this point devolving into attacking one another, other than Chris Christie, who's gone completely berserk and stands no chance. If Donald Trump against Joe Biden is not Donald Trump v. Hillary. Donald Trump was never ahead in the polling aggregate and only had narrowed it up to within 3 or 4 points on the eve of election night in 2016. This is why everyone suspected he would lose. In 2020, he trailed Biden consistently. Right now, it's about dead even. Donald Trump matches up better post-indictment against Biden as an incumbent candidate who supposedly is doing a good job, according to literally nobody who takes life seriously, or goes shopping or pumps their own gas. He matches up better against him now, certainly far better than he was in 2016. He's got a good fundraising apparatus, etc. And in the end, despite all the bravado, we see this every 4 years, at the end of the day, most Republicans who are partisan will fall in line behind him, just like most Democrats will Biden. But you only need to lose a narrow margin. Then there's the other possibility. The no-labelers could run Manchin, or the no-labelers could also mount their own independent bid. Andrew Yang could organize, another candidate, and it looks like they're going to lean off into the liberal side of politics. If you end up with Biden competing for leftoids with Cornel West, and lay liberals with Joe Manchin and with some no-labeler, I can't say how many friggin' distraction candidates does it take to topple the regime? Could lose 5 or 6 points, that would be the end of it. Unless there is, honk honk, some fortification going on. But Manchin's well-funded and well-liked, at least within parts of the Democratic Party. RFK Jr. could mount an independent run, too. He could refuse to go home when all things are said and done. Marianne Williamson could feasibly do the same, although she'd probably have to run as a Green, and Cornel is already their man. So I don't know exactly how she'd rig that in. We don't know who the Libertarian candidate's going to be, how powerful that platform will be. Of course, a few elections ago, it rose up pretty well. Then it's, under Jorgensen, certainly sort of petered back down. Now it's had an entire overhaul to its party structure. There are a lot of unknowns here. What is known is this, though. Manchin getting into the race in any way, shape, or form, except as a surrogate for Joe Biden, is a disaster for Joe Biden. Thus, I encourage him to run. He won't win, of course. He'd probably struggle in the general if he runs as an independent to break 2 points. But that's not the reason why I would want him to run. I want Biden to lose because he quite clearly is incompetent, and the Democrats should kind of hope that he loses too, because otherwise he will probably croak in office in his second term, leaving you your first female president, who will not have actually been elected at all, which is a blot on, the annals of history now, isn't it? Oh, we elected the first female president. Well, she wasn't actually elected, but, And she's also incoherent, unlikable, can't win a re-election bid under any circumstances, and is incapable of actually doing her job. Yay, we saved the Republic from evil Trump. I don't think that these people are thinking it through quite clearly enough. That's about all. Peace out.